Now, this is what I'm hoping and thinking they're going to do, is that the tempered version is going to be the Soulseer version. And only the Soulseer version. Once you get to that stage where you fight the tempered monster, you see a higher, stronger version of Mizu. The base monster cannot turn flaming. You can't do the flame on. Not possible. All of that will be reserved for the tempered. If I see the Hunter rank 21 Mizu go flaming, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm definitely going to be disappointed.
Get out.
Sir, if there's anything I can bring...
Get out!
Oh boy, we're back. It's been a minute. Your boy is late to the party, but I've been busy with real life stuff. And in that time, a lot of stuff has happened in the Monster Hunter space. Title Update 1, the Spring event, and AT Raydao making his debut. And your boy Nova missed out on all of that YouTube content. But don't worry, we'll get to Raydao another day. Today, we gotta talk about Mizu. Now I know people are tired of Duma videos, but I gotta say my piece before we move on from this and talk about other things. So I'd appreciate it if you're listening to what I have to say, and in return I'll give you the courtesy of replying to as many people as I can in the comments. I have at least 2 more Duma videos to come out, so bear with me for now, because this ride is about to get wild. Now if you may remember, Mizu and his channel has been a saga of events. First, me talking about why people aren't happy about Mizu in this game, mainly due to the fact we already had 3 in Rise, and Mizu isn't really a title update difficulty level monster. And then later, we saw the showcase, and Mizu showed his new flaming form. And as a GU stan, you know I had to lay down some ground rules. I had a couple of requests. Yeah, some that Capcom were clearly not going to align with. You know, every once in a while I'll partake in the intake of copium. So, number 1 rule. If Capcom were gonna bring Soulseer's moveset and mechanics into the base version, they gotta include some armor and weapons, or at least something. Now, this one sounds like a stretch, and maybe it was, but I think it's a fair thing to say, because as it stands, Soulseer, Deviants, weapons, armor and all will be lost to time. They have no reason to ever bring back any of these monsters if they're going to integrate their mechanics into the base monster. In a sense, we've lost potential content. Why would they do this, and does it break the law of Mizu? Well, we'll get into that in a bit. Then there's number 2. Base Mizu should not transform. It should be unique to the tempered version. Now, my reasoning here was Soulseers are older, more experienced Mizus who ate burst Aurana. If every Mizu's just running about, able to eat a fish and go all flaming, it kinda takes away from what made Soulseer so special. And as a GU stan, I take that shit seriously. So about 2 weeks ago, I loaded up the stream, finally time to see if Capcom cooked or forgot to add the spice. Will I crash out, or will things go to plan the way I hoped? I haven't seen the water blast yet though. The water beam. Oh. Animation's nice, but I thought that would have hit. Okay. Alright. Instant F. Instant F. Instant. Capcom, what are you doing? Nah, this guy's trash. I was gonna allow it after him missing all his moves and the music sounded like garbage. I was like, you know what, let me listen to it a bit more. But then this guy seemed to go flame on straight away. Yeah, I freaking crashed out. And not even your normal crash. I'm talking about US stock market crash levels. Like, holy shit, what is this? Yeah, fine. The armor and weapons thing may be a bit too much for 6th gen Capcom. God forbid they go the extra mile. But my second ask, like, I don't think that was unreasonable. This is the second time you fucked with Deviants, Capcom. Your boy Nova ain't waiting for a 3rd strike, 2 strikes, you're out. The King Soulseer has been merged into the base simp Wilds Mizu. What a sad timeline this is. And this is the law you set up for yourself. Mechanics from your own previous game. But as opposed to the current Capcom, the past only matters when it helps you justify your actions. What do I mean by this? Well, I feel his new abilities are tied directly to him being a title update monster. To justify this inclusion, Capcom looked around for whatever they could grab to make him more terrifying. But in doing that, have they lived up to the name of the Flaming Bubble King, or have they taken the soul out of Soulseer? But hold on for a second. Cut the beat. What is that crap playing in the background? Did someone mix this together blind or something? Playing all the wrong keys.
Hooray! Hooray! That was great, Squidward. All those wrong notes you play made it sound more original.
What? I didn't play any wrong notes.
Yeah, see, you're playing it like this. When ordinarily it goes like this. I'm partial to doing it in the key of A minor myself. Nothing like a duet between buddies, eh, Squidward?
God damn. When I heard a bit of it in the trailer and the showcase, I didn't like the sound of it much, and I know some people in my community felt the same. But before I said anything about it publicly, in the usual Nova fashion, I decided to wait to hear the full version for myself. And after hearing it in game, it just feels so lifeless to me, like legit. It just sounds so bland. Now after a while listening to it while editing this video, it has grown on me just a bit, but even then, it just doesn't have the punch or the impact like the old Mizu themes. It just feels like they've ripped apart a lot of the uniqueness and vibe the song had. It really just feels bland. That's the best way I can put it. Just bland. So even though I don't dislike it as much as I originally did, I like it a bit more, it's just not there. Now, if you're on the Discord, you know I'm all about my Monster Hunter music. Or if you've watched the podcast, check that out by the way, the Smash Brothers podcast. We talk about anime, gaming, and Monster Hunter especially, so tune into that. Anyway, if you're listening to that, you know that I listen to a lot of Monster Hunter music. While writing scripts, at the gym, Magna Malo's theme has been my ringtone and alarm for the past 4 freaking years. And I ain't ever changing that shit. It got me waking up like,
Foolish Hunter, I laced your shit.
fuck. It ain't easy to wake up to, but now I'm always ready for a battle. Anyway, so hearing this game's version has been a letdown and moves it to be my least favorite OST out of the 3 versions. So editor, cut that shit out and let's keep it old school. And once again guys, I gotta do it. Let's go! Gets me hyped every time. So now that out of the way, what do I think about the fight itself? Did they mix up the fight enough to make it worthy of a title updated monster? Well, nah, not really. Firstly, similar to what people say about most monsters in this game, Mizu just dies way too quickly. Death or the normal version. It felt like the quest was over before it even got serious. And after fighting him for 3 hours or so, I still haven't seen that big bubble move, which is a shame. But apart from that, the moves for the most part are quite similar to Rise. Even the horizontal water spray move they added in Rise. But he does have a new move where he kind of jumps at you and then dances around and tries to trick you up, which is pretty cool. So guys, after writing my script and actually recording some more footage, I realized that new move is pretty garbage because if he stands still, he doesn't even hit you. He misses you. Like, what the hell? Like, this new cool move is useless. Oh, come on. And I was gassing it up as well. But once again, this Mizu, similar to all other Mizus, still suffers from his head being broken way too easily. It's like this guy loves being on the floor. Since this is now a title update monster, I was hoping they'd fix that up a bit. But it actually feels like it's even easier to break the head in this game than previous. And I wonder why that is. So, let's just get to the flaming eye thing. It's weird. Okay, sure, you ate a burst of Awana, and now you can use Soulseer's moveset. Okay, cool. But like, why is your eye glowing? With Soulseer, it kinda made sense. A blind Mizu filled with rage, wandering the plains of the hunter world, lamenting the existence of hunters, and those who scarred him in such a way. When you first encounter him, he's sleeping, dreaming of mutilating that one longsword main who should have been on the tail instead of the head. The master of bubbles, as they swirl around him like a defensive barrier. Then, as the hunter approaches him, not realizing he's in Soulseer's domain expansion. Everything hits in this bitch, and bang! Bubble pops, and it's Vietnam all over again. The Soul King goes flame on, all anime on us and everything. A truly fascinating dynamic. But with the new Mizu, it's just lame. As soon as you break this Mizu's head, he goes flaming straight away. It's like he was waiting to pop out on you, like surprise motherfucker. And that's how they get him to go flaming? It's wild. They don't even put into the hunter notes. They don't even talk about it after the hunt. Nothing. This washed up motherfucker just goes flaming for what? Cause this bitch ass got his face smacked in?
What?
I know that sounds bad.
Boy, if you don't get your ass out of here, it's so dumb. Such a missed opportunity. For a game supposedly to be about law and ecology, cause it seems like they only care about it when they feel like they have to. They could have at least made it so Mizu goes to water to eat a fish and then gain the power. But as it stands, it's just bro's mad so he goes flaming. Like, no cap, if you didn't know about the lore in GU, you'd have no way of knowing why Mizu went flaming like this. Even on stream, we had to test to figure it out. Do you know how hard it is to not break Mizu's face in this game? It felt easier to fight Fatalis than doing this shit. Anyway, yeah, I failed to complete a crest without breaking the head. And as soon as the head was broken, flame on nigga, like bitch was waiting for it, practically begging me to pound his skull in for the power boost. It's even lamer when you think about it in a sense of gameplay. Soulseer was all about dodging the bubbles so you wouldn't go flaming, while Wild's Mizu is tied to the head being broken. It's weird game design just to fit the lore. Before, you have to actively think about dodging and blocking bubbles and not letting them just hit you. The better you were at not getting hit by bubbles, the easier Soulseer's fight would become. And I think that's a pretty cool dynamic. But now, it's as if the game doesn't want you to hit the head, as breaking the head leads him to go into the flaming mode. That's lame. It's so goddamn lame. And I'm sitting here like, why? Why would they add this to Mizu? Not talk about it in lore, and also not showcase it correctly in the game. And the only answer I could come up with after all these weeks of thinking about it was they needed a way to justify why Mizu was included as a title update monster. Cause come on, if it was just the base moveset in the game without the flaming mode, you know, and I know, that shit would be ass.
Nothing like saltwater soup. And I got sugar water for dessert. I'm going all out tonight.
But they needed something. Just something to put him over the edge. And that was Soulseer and his flaming eye. But it just comes across as lazy. I already ripped into Capcom before when it came to the Apexes and what they did there, and I'll do it again today. It's a mess. And yeah, sure, maybe this means more to me than your usual fan, mostly because back in the day, I used to stream back when I only had 2 people watching me at a time, fighting EXs back in GU, soloing them all. Shout out to the boy Win and Trax. They were always in those streams back then with me, so in the end, it's just a shame. Capcom continuously flirts with the ideas of Deviants since Rise. You can tell they love the idea of them, but just don't know what to do with them. First we had Apexes in Rise, monsters were basically 90% of the moveset of their Deviant counterparts, yet no armor or weapons to go with them. Also washing out their colours with some ugly reddish blue theme, to now with Wild's Mizu, we're blending the moveset straight into the base monster, taking away from the uniqueness of this Deviant. But you know, I tried to be fair, so on the stream, we spent quite a lot of time going back and forth to see if it breaks the lore or not. Normally, I'm not a lore guy, but as we've already established, I'm a GU stan, so when it comes to that, I'm all about it. And overall lore wise, I think we can make sense of it, and here's how I work it in my mind. Even though it's impractical to believe that every Mizu we see is mature of an older age, it seems all a Mizu needs to shoot flaming bubbles is to eat a burst Awana. And even though Mizu was never capable of doing it in GU and Rise, maybe Mizus in the Forbidden Lands have been able to harness the true power of the flames. Feels like I'm trying to fill in the lack of ecology and lore for the monster, but it's what they've left me with sadly. But I figured there's one more source of truth we could go to finalize our thoughts on Soulseer and Wild's Mizu lore. The king of ecology and lore, Unban Lagaikris. Our boy is finally free from his underwater chains. So on X or Twitter, you know, the place that needs to get nuked permanently, I asked him the question, what do you think about Wild's Mizu and does it break the lore of Soulseer? He replied saying, Wild's Mizu is okay, not good or bad, just okay. Does it break the lore of Soulseer? Yes and no. It gaining fire bubbles from its diet of burst Awana is something that could happen to any Mizu. Soulseer fed primarily on burst Awana because it had a hard time catching smaller fish. I mentioned this before, but I have no problem with Mizu using fire bubbles in terms of wilds. I would have preferred if it was limited to the tempered one, but not a deal breaker. My real problem is that Wild's Mizu pretty much uses Soulseer's entire moveset once its head is broken, which is hard to avoid breaking. Why the hell didn't it fight like that from the get-go? It seems like we both agree that it's weird that they've changed it to Mizu's head being broken to unleashing the Soulseer's power. Couldn't they have gone with something more creative? Or they could have stuck with what we know from Soulseer. I then went on to ask him, when it comes to Soulseer, it could have also started out fighting that way from the get-go too, right? But the mechanic is tied to the bubbles. Why do bubbles pop make Soulseer enrage anyway? The reason I ask this is that I imagine some people saying that Soulseer's transformation is also an arbitrary fact, which I can't fully argue against, but at least it leads to a more interesting dynamic like we already talked about. Anyway, he replied saying, Soulseer could instantly become enraged if he touched one of its bubbles. Mizu uses the bubbles they leave behind to sense changes in the surrounding environment, allowing them to detect threats within their territory. Soulseer can sense these changes to a higher degree. Their fins, and perhaps the small ears behind their head fins, are the key to its bubble senses. It uses its fins, particularly its head fins, to detect changes in humidity or moisture in its environment, or it listens to the bubbles popping via its ears. So with Soulseer's heightened daredevil-like abilities, I imagine the bubble popping detection system helps him understand how much of a threat the hunter is, leading them to activate the survival mode. Now that sounds pretty cool. If only they used these ecology pieces in the game itself. It's wild. How is GU, a game notorious for gameplay of just run from A to fight monster at B, with no real story, no real monster introductions, have more care in a monster's ecology than Wilds? A game meant to be about the ecosystem of the monster world mixed in with your gameplay. Like, think about that for a moment. It's crazy. It just comes across to me they saw Mizu being one of the most popular monsters requested for this game, so they had to put Mizu in the game without the care of Mizu's actual gameplay in the game itself with ecology and lore to back it. It's bizarre. Fair enough, a lot of this knowledge wasn't in GU, but was from the ecology books after the fact. But like I said before, we still had the hunter notes explaining the basics of the Deviant. So yeah, overall, it's kind of a shame. Anyway, thanks Unbanned Lagaiacus for the lore points once again. He's always helpful and knows so much about Monster Hunter. So guys, go check out his X account. I'll leave a link to it down in the description down below. So for now, this is what we know. Maybe in the future, when the ecology book comes out for Wilds, we can dig into it a bit deeper. But bro, I shit you not. If the book comes out explaining his head breaking, unlocking new powers, I'm gonna burn that book. But okay, I think that's enough shitting on Mizu for now. The base version is meh, and Soulseer mode is annoying, but the moves are pretty cool. I do like the look of the flaming bubbles and how they still have nice knockback to them. The bubbles themselves have a bit of a weird shape to them, but it is kind of cool to see them float around and change shape. Also, we can't forget about the animations. Mizu's animations in this game were translated beautifully. It's very fluid, and you can see that Capcom went through extra care on his sliding bubble ability. And it's not just that, the water effects, the spray from the water beams, I gotta say, I was very impressed. Effort has definitely been put into the monster when it comes to how it moves and how it reacts. But you know what, let's talk about the tempered version. Well, one of my subs, Melaton, the goddamn traitor, told me to fight it with a weapon without a shield. And well, I got cooked. And you don't even lick your arms like Soulseer. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. This guy is so dead. There's no arm licking. There's no tail licking. So you're Soulseer about the seer, and definitely about the soul. There's no, I don't see no soul. I'm dead. Wow, he took my soul. So tempered Mizu, my leg. Yo, that hurt. Holy shit. Tempered Mizu throws hands. Yeah, it was kind of rough. While the base Mizu does like no damage, the tempered hits pretty insanely. Kind of brings me back to Soulseer himself. That body slam gets me every time. And if you played Rise and you fought Apex Mizu, you also know what I'm talking about. But I think it's also fair to say, I ain't that great with switch hacks. And it was about 2 weeks since the last time I played, but I still gotta admit, tempered Mizu throws hands. And yeah, I'm happy about that. Well, mostly. I've always been a big advocate of increasing the damage that monsters deal. It forces us hunters to build around that. Fully upgrade armor, take defensive skills, or even play more tactically. It does lead to more engaging gameplay. It's just, the differences between the base version and the tempered feel so grand that unless you're fighting the tempered version, the hunt kind of feels like a joke. And it's weird because post-endgame content should be for the vets and the more experienced players who are willing to keep on playing after the initial game has finished. Yet the Mizu Crest is only a 3-star monster, and it's the same with the AT Ray Dao, which we'll get into another day. But why is it not 5, or at least 4? Well, it's because of that everyone should be able to do it mentality more and more games have these days. Everyone should be able to complete a quest or mission. Yeah, sure, after the quest you can hunt down the more difficult version, but that initial experience is very important. That initial barrier to beating the monster and how you felt doing it can change the dynamic of how you feel about the hunt overall. And also, like I told Zenny the other day, shout out to him by the way, we did a podcast episode together talking about Monster Hunter Wilds and all stuff, so yeah, check that out. Anyway, like I said to him, there's a quest back in Monster Hunter 3U that I still haven't completed. It was a super Stygian Zenogre that beat the shit out of my ass so hard when I was 19. It was crazy. I still haven't mentally recovered. Every time I look at my Wii U, I want to pop in the game just to finally beat him. And it was fine that my skills wasn't enough to beat him back in the day. It was a part of the journey when playing the games. But that line of thinking is lost. We'll talk about this more another time. But like My Little Pony, I still can't get past the title screen. Should they make the game easier for me? Hell no. One day, I'll grow balls large enough to venture into the world of ponies and rainbows. But today, ain't that day. So when it comes to the fight, normal Mizu is kinda boring. Tempered is much better. But even then, I still feel like I had way more fun fighting him in Rise. The battle just felt way more enjoyable. Even fighting him in the beta was hella fun. That freaking slip and slide, bro, you gotta love it. So, wrapping up briefly, let's talk about the weapons and armor. Both look fantastic, as usual, and I like the fact the weapons have a unique skill on them. It leads me to think going forwards, all of the title update monsters will have a unique skill tied to the weapons, which makes me wonder, what will Laggy get when we get him? Another topic I still haven't covered. Damn, it's truly been a minute. So in the end, I feel like I got to answer 3 questions. Do I like Wild's Mizu? Not really. Out of 10, I'd give it a 4 sadly. I'm just not a fan of the overall changes they've made. Subspecies, deviants and rare species have always been a cool part of Monster Hunter for me. For them to have less of an importance just doesn't sit well with me. While we've established Wild's Mizu doesn't really break the law, it takes away what made Soulseer a unique evolution. Number 2, is he title update worthy? No, the moveset is just not different enough. They've just taken the same Rise Mizu and then added on Soulseer from GU, which I don't like. And difficulty wise, he's just not there. And yes, the tempered is stronger, but you could ramp up the damage on a Chechikaba to 11 and that wouldn't make him title update worthy just because he hit goddamn hard. Now I know some people would say, what about Devil Joan World? And yeah, I also think he was a bitch in that game too, until the tempered version came out. It seems like there's a trend here. And 3, will Capcom ever bring back the real Deviants? Sadly, the answer is no. We will never get those monsters back to shine in their glory. We will never get Soulseer, we will never get Bolt Weaver, we will never get Nightcloak, and we will never see Bloodbath Diablos ever again.